Hey guys, what is up, and I welcome each and every one of you to yet again a new League of Legends video. So today I wanted to try something a little bit different or new, and that idea is I wanted to essentially go over a very well known and successful player, so in this case Faker, and just take a look at what he's been playing in the mid lane for solo queue. What has been his more popular picks or just his overall personal favorite picks for solo queue, what has he been doing well with, and just a combination of those factors. Or in other words, Faker's top solo queue champion picks. So if you guys think this is a pretty cool idea and you enjoyed and want to see more like it, let me know by hitting that like button. And this video is going to be made in collaboration with ProGuides, a name I'm sure you're very familiar with by now. It's a great site that's aim is to overall improve your League of Legends knowledge. I'll have a link to it down in the description below with a free trial, so highly recommend checking it out, especially with their cool feature where you can talk to high-elo players almost at any given time. But without much further ado, let's get right into the first champion that Faker seems to enjoy playing in solo queue and also has success with. And this is going to be somewhat of an odd one because he actually apparently has been playing Jhin in the mid lane and being somewhat successful with it. Now, the weird thing about this is the fact that once I show you guys his build path, his items and all that stuff, you'll notice he doesn't actually go for the typical Jhin build, the one that you usually see Jhins get at the very moment, where you just go flat armor penetration. Now, this could be a simple personal preference, or maybe he's just testing things out, but for the most part, if I had to choose, I would still go for the armor penetration build. But the one that Faker seems to go is the one with the Essence Reaver into the crit items and just the overall standard ADC build. But let's talk a little bit about Jhin mid. I mean, I actually used to play this myself quite frequently and I actually really liked it. I thought it was really fun, it was really cool. It kind of felt like it brought a lot of what mid laners usually do. I mean, yeah, he's very immobile and yeah, he's pretty susceptible to ganks, but you have the long range wave clear with your W, you have that really long range harass with your ultimate. That's kind of what mid laners tend to bring. It's very similar to Varus mid lane. He's also very strong in the laning phase, especially if you decide to go for Ignite, because you can probably get level 2 first blood a lot of the times. Your damage output is just almost unmatched. It truly is a lot of fun to play. I highly recommend at least trying it out maybe in a normals. I think you guys will have pretty good success with it, especially if you are in mid lane main or at least you play Jhin a lot. But next, let's quickly take a look at what kind of items, runes, and masteries does Faker himself go when playing Jhin in the mid lane. Now let's quickly start with the summoners first. Ghost and Flash seems to be his choice of summoners. Now this actually does make sense again because Jhin is very immobile, so the Ghost will help you kind of maneuver yourself around the mid lane, maybe avoid certain ganks, avoid certain skill shots, or go in for the kill at certain points. The other option, in my opinion, is also going for the Ignite, but again, the Ghost is overall the safer one that will also help you a lot more later on into the game. His runes when playing Jhin in the mid lane are also somewhat standard. I mean, he has attack speed quints, he has physical damage reds, he has magic resistance blues mixed with CDR per level blues up to 10%, and flat armor yellows. His masteries are actually quite standard for Jhin, 18-0-12, the Deathfire Touch being without question the best keystone for this champion, but Thunderlords not being the worst option either. He actually puts 12 points into Resolve instead of Cunning, not the biggest of differences. This kind of maybe helps him a little bit when it comes to actually trading in the laning phase, but for the most part, not the biggest difference. And for items, like I said, he goes the typical standard ADC build on Jhin, the one that we used to do before this armor penetration build. So Essence Reaver, your boots of choice, usually maybe boots of swiftness, static shiv, or rapid fire cannon, infinity edge, and things like that. But let's move on to his second champion that he seems to be playing very frequently and also having relative success with in solo queue, Taliyah. Now, I actually don't want to get too much into Taliyah here because I do want to make another video talking about her in about a week or so. So I want to save a lot of things I want to say for that video. But all in all, Taliyah is a very strong champion. I mean, she has a lot of damage in her kit. She has a lot of roam potential. She's fantastic of a mid laner. She scales pretty decently well as well. She has great catch potential, a solid champion that can do a lot for her team, but very difficult to play. So it's really no surprise that someone at Faker's level is putting in the time and effort to learn a champion such as Taliyah. But let's take a look at what Faker is doing with this champion. So just like the previous example with Jhin, he seems to also be enjoying the Flash and Ghost. Now, way long ago, I did make a video talking about Faker's and Bjergsen's Taliyah builds as well, so if you want to have really truly in-depth information as to how Faker plays Taliyah, highly recommend checking out that video. I'll have a link to it down in the description below. But as of somewhat recently, this is how he's been building and playing Talia. Again, Flash and Ghost, putting 18 points into the Cunning tree, of course getting the Thunderlords and putting the rest into the Resolve tree. Faker seems to really enjoy the Resolve tree over the Ferocity tree for a lot of his champions. His runes are pretty straightforward as well. Flat AP Quints, Magic Penetration Reds, he has HP per level Yellows, and then a mix of AP and CDR per level Blues. And his build is as follows. He likes to go for the Morelnomicon first, usually opting for the Sword Boots as well. Then you go straight for the Rylai's Crystal Scepter, then you might want to get something like a Void Staff, maybe a Leandri's Torment. Rabadon's is a pretty good option as well. It just kind of depends on what you're facing. There's several different options, which if you want to know all of them in depth, again, highly recommend checking out my other Talia video. But let's jump right into champion number 3, and here we'll be talking about Kassadin. So it does seem like Faker is bringing out the Void Man himself. I mean, Kassadin is really not that bad of a current mid laner. He got a few buffs not too long ago, and ever since then, he has been slowly rising up in popularity. I mean, most of the champions you face now in the mid lane are, for the most part, AP champions. You don't really see Zed or Talon too much. I mean, you don't see Jace or Pantheon or anything like that. Most champions are AP. Kassadin does fairly well. The only problem with Kassadin is, yeah, his pre-6 really isn't all that good. I mean, it does take a little bit of time for him to get going, but he scales really well, and especially if you decide to go for Lich Bane later on into the game, you are going to be killing those squishy champions pretty damn easily. Especially while champions like Jhin, Ashe, or even Sivir for that matter are popular. So all in all, Kassadin definitely an underrated pick at the very moment, slowly making his way back into the meta, and definitely someone you should expect to start sneaking up on you. But let's take a quick gander as to what exactly Faker does in terms of his build. So for summoners, he goes Flash and Teleport. This is pretty standard on Kassadin and most champions that have very poor laning phases, because this overall just helps you get past those first few levels. His masteries are 18, 0, 12, again putting those 12 points into the Resolve tree, but the interesting thing is the fact that he put his 18 points into the Ferocity tree, not the Cunning. Now most Kassadin players do go for the Cunning and the Thunderlords because it just works, but Faker decided to go for Deathfire Touch. Now I'll be completely honest, I'm not 100% sure as to why he decided to go for Deathfire Touch over Thunderlords. I think Thunderlords is overall just better because it fits his assassination playstyle. But if you're going for maybe a slightly more tanky Kassadin build where you're not really going for just straight raw glass cannon damage, but you're going for a little bit more of that sustained damage while just kind of chilling in the fight with tankiness, maybe then in that scenario, Deathfire Touch is just overall a better choice. His runes seem to be the exact same thing as Talia, again with the flat AP Quints, Magic Penetration Reds, HP per level Yellows, and a mix of CDR and AP per level Blues. Now your items want to be relatively tanky on Kassadin, so something like a Rod of Ages, maybe an Abyssal Scepter, especially if you're facing against an AP champion and they have an AP jungler and or top laner. And after that, you can choose between items such as Zhonya's Hourglass, Void Staff, Death Cap, or Lich Bane. Again, just depends on how much you snowball or how much more damage do you really need, but Lich Bane in my opinion is going to be the luxury item. You don't really need it, but it's really not that bad of an option either. But moving along to the next champion, and this is going to be Faker's probably #1 pick in solo queue at the very moment in terms of frequency and also success, LeBlanc. LeBlanc is one of those champions where she's pretty easy to pick up. Yeah, you can pick her up and do a lot of great things with her, but she's actually very complex when it comes to playing her at a very high level. This is why in very high elo, she actually tends to be a very good pick. But in elos, maybe around platinum or so, she's not the best pick in the entire world unless you really know what you're doing with her, because closing out a game with LeBlanc is not easy. You can be 20-5, but you can still easily lose a game with her because again, you have to really know what you're doing late game. But either way, let's talk a little bit more about LeBlanc. Now she has a very solid laning phase, having a lot of damage output. She can bully out almost any single champion. She has fantastic roam. She can wave clear somewhat decently. I mean, not the best in the entire world, but not the worst either. But the whole idea is she can bully out most people. She has extremely strong laning and mid game phase as well. Goes to lanes, top lane, bottom lane, in the jungle, can traverse through jungle walls as well with her W. And I mean, there really is just a lot that LeBlanc can do. She can take over a game quite easily. Maybe this is why LeBlanc is getting that rework, because if you put her into the right hands, she is a very scary champion. But let's take a quick look at his build. So without any question, he goes Flash Ignite again for that extra kill pressure in the laning phase and just to overall snowball your lead. His masteries are 12, 18, 0, putting the points into the Thunderlords, but this time actually opting for the Ferocity tree, not the Resolve tree. Since with LeBlanc you want to be aggressive as hell and just go pretty much as ham as possible from level 2. His runes are the same as Talia and Kassadin, Magic Penetration Reds, Flat AP Quints, HP per level Yellows, and a mix of CDR and AP Blues. But for his build, he actually has two slight variations, one of which contains the Magi's, one of which does not. Now, other than the Magi's, he gets the same 3 items in a row, Abyssal Scepter, Morale-Anomicon, into a Rabadon's. It's just a matter of whether or not he's actually snowballing. If he's snowballing really hard, he'll go for the Magi's, and usually he'll also get the Void Staff and then the Rabadon. If he, however, decides not to go for the Magi's, then he goes for the Morale-Anomicon with Abyssal Scepter, straight into the Rabadons, followed by the Void Staff. Overall, a fantastic solo queue champion, but definitely more difficult than people give her credit for. And the last champion we'll be talking about that Faker seems to also enjoy playing in the mid lane is Auriel Sol. This champion is very strong. I mean, you have to really know how to play him because he is somewhat of a unique champion, but once you understand how he should be played and his playstyle and how to really utilize his W properly without missing half of the balls, he is absolutely deadly. All you have to do is put your first point into W, max it first as well, and just keep pushing in the wave, using your E ability, and if you choose to go teleport, that summoner spell as well, to go back into the lane, just farm it out, roam with your E ability as well. There's a lot of things you can do, and it's really hard to stop him. He also has solid control in team fights, especially since he's also very tanky, but the rallies mixed with his W just makes it almost obnoxious for the enemy team to deal with when combined with his ultimate slow as well. It almost feels like the enemy team has to be playing a minigame when facing Auriel Sol. But taking a quick look at what Faker does for his build, he tends to sometimes go flash exhaust, probably matchup dependent, or flash teleport. His runes are the exact same ones as the ones I've been talking about so far, but the masteries he goes 0, 18, 12, opting in for the Storm Raider Surge because Auriel Sol is all about his positioning and making sure he can be in range of his W constantly. For items you want to go Flask into Dark Seal, go straight for the Rod of Ages, into the Rylai's Crystal Scepter, and then you go for things like Rabadons, Void Staff, and etc. But that right there is about it for this video, guys. I mean, there you have it. Faker's top current solo queue picks that he really seems to enjoy playing, has success with, and are also very interesting. So let me know down below, what do you think of this new type of video or format? If you like it, let me know by hitting that like button, and I will think about doing more in the future for other professional players. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you for the next video. Peace.